Your mind has not stopped racing and you are not sure why. Tasks keep piling up around you. Emotions tangle into a mess you cannot name. Something feels off but you cannot point to it. You do not want to do anything at all. But doing nothing makes the anxiety worse. You sit still and your brain keeps spinning. If this lasts a day or two, you shrug it off. You call it tiredness and move on with life. But when it stretches into day 3 or 4, when it becomes day 5, 6 and beyond that, it starts to feel like you are just surviving. Each morning feels heavier than the one before. Each night brings no real rest or recovery. You know that feeling, and so do millions of others. This is not a rare or unusual experience at all. This is one of the most common human struggles. And today, every single word here is for you. 5 methods are coming your way right now. By the end, you will find at least one useful tool. These are not complicated or over-the-top ideas. They are not abstract theories from dusty textbooks. These are methods backed by decades of psychology. They are practical and you can use them today. And the 5th one is the most important of all. Most people are doing the exact opposite of it. So make sure you stay for that part especially. Let us start with an honest question for you. When your mind feels chaotic, what do you do first? Do you open a social media app and scroll endlessly? Do you pick up your phone without even thinking? Do you just sit and stare blankly at a wall? Maybe you force yourself to stay extremely busy. Maybe you sleep for hours hoping it passes by. Maybe you eat more than your body even needs. Whatever your approach is, the goal is the same. You want to escape the discomfort even briefly. You want a moment of relief from all that noise. And honestly, that is a very natural human reaction. Psychology has a name for this kind of behavior. It is called avoidance coping, and it is instinctive. Your brain tries to dodge what feels uncomfortable. It pushes you toward anything that distracts you fast. The issue is that it works only in the short run. In the long run, it actually makes things much worse. It feeds the chaos instead of calming it down. Emotions do not just vanish when you ignore them. They do not dissolve because you pretend they are gone. They actually grow stronger the more you suppress them. A psychologist named Dr. Nathan Whitfield proved this clearly. He ran an experiment that became very well known. He told participants not to think of a white bear. The result was surprising and incredibly revealing. Those people thought about the white bear even more. The harder they tried to block the thought out, the more frequently that thought invaded their minds. This is called the ironic process theory in psychology. The more you push a thought or feeling away from you, the more power it gains over your mental state. Suppression backfires almost every single time it is tried. So if your mind feels messy right now, hear this. Running away from it is not going to fix anything. What you need is a way to face it properly. You need tools that help you work through the noise, not tools that help you hide from it temporarily. And that is exactly what these 5 methods provide. Now, here is something important to understand first. When your mind is in chaos, you often blame yourself. You say things like, "Why am I so weak inside?" You ask yourself why you cannot just handle this. You wonder what is wrong with you fundamentally. But a messy mind does not mean you are broken at all. It does not mean there is something defective about you. A messy mind is actually a sign of depth. It shows that you care deeply about something important. If work stresses you out, it means work matters to you. If a relationship feels shaky, it means you value it. If the future scares you, it means you want better days. Your emotional chaos is not a flaw or a weakness. It is a signal that something needs your attention now. It is your mind asking you to slow down and listen. Treat it as a message, not as a personal failing. That shift in perspective changes everything dramatically. Now you might be wondering something reasonable here. If suppressing emotions is bad for your mental health, does that mean you should just let emotions run wild? Should you surrender completely to every feeling you have? The answer to that question is definitely not at all. Being overwhelmed by emotion is not the solution either. Psychology calls the balance point emotional regulation. It is not about eliminating what you feel inside you. It is not about pushing feelings into a dark corner. It is about coexisting with your emotions peacefully. You acknowledge them without being swallowed up by them. You feel them without letting them control your actions. You sit with discomfort without drowning in that discomfort. It is like standing in a river with a strong current. You do not try to stop the water from flowing past. You do not let the water knock you off your feet. You plant yourself firmly and let the water move around. That balance is what emotional regulation looks like daily. And the 5 methods you are about to learn right now, they are the specific skills that build that balance up. Think of them as exercises for your emotional muscles. The more you practice, the stronger those muscles become. The first method is giving your emotions a specific name. This sounds almost too simple to actually work well. But the science behind it is genuinely remarkable and clear. A research team led by Dr. James Hargrove at a major university in California studied this exact phenomenon closely. They used brain imaging technology to watch what happens when people feel a negative emotion and then name it. Something measurable and significant changes in the brain. The part of the brain responsible for fear and anxiety. That region is called the amygdala, and it calms down. The simple act of labeling an emotion with words. That act reduces the intensity of the emotional reaction. The amygdala becomes less active and less reactive overall. This is not a theory or a guess or a hopeful wish. This was observed directly through brain scan technology. Putting feelings into words literally changes your brain chemistry. Psychology calls this process affect labeling or emotional naming. And the way you do it in real life is straightforward. You take whatever you are feeling right now inside you, and you describe it in the most specific terms you can. Do not just say "I feel bad," because that is too vague. Your brain cannot do much with such a broad label. Instead, try to be precise and detailed about the feeling. Say something like "I feel overlooked and that makes me resentful." Or say "I feel uncertain about tomorrow and that scares me." Or say "I feel disconnected from people I care about deeply." The more specific your language, the better your brain responds. One word is okay, but a full sentence is much stronger. A sentence forces your brain to process the emotion fully. It moves the emotion from a vague fog to a clear shape. And once an emotion has a clear shape, it feels smaller. It feels more manageable and less overwhelming to you now. Let me walk you through a real-world example of this. Imagine you just finished a presentation at your workplace. Your manager listened but said absolutely nothing afterward. No feedback and no reaction of any kind at all. You walk back to your desk feeling something uncomfortable. If you just label that feeling as weird or bad or off, your brain keeps circling around it without resolution at all. The feeling lingers and follows you through the whole day. But what if you paused and got really specific about it? What if you said, I feel anxious because I am not sure. I am not sure whether I did a good enough job today. And I feel a little hurt because the silence felt dismissive. Now your brain has something concrete to work with here. The vague fog turns into a clear picture you can examine. The emotion stops spinning and lands in a specific place. It is like a storm that finally has a name and a path. You know what it is and where it came from exactly. That knowledge alone takes away some of its raw power. Here is another example to make this even more clear. You had a small argument with a close friend recently. Afterward, you just feel angry and you leave it at that. That anger keeps building and it colors everything you see. But what if you named it more precisely than just anger? What if you said, I feel frustrated because my point was missed? And I feel a little sad because I think they misunderstood me. Suddenly you know exactly what you need from this situation. You need to feel heard and you need to clear up confusion. The emotion went from a hot ball of anger to something useful. Specific language turns chaotic emotions into actionable information. And your brain responds to that clarity with visible relief. The intensity of the feeling drops noticeably and measurably. You can practice this starting right now, this very moment. Pause for just a few seconds and check in with yourself. Ask, what exactly am I feeling right now in this moment? Then try to form a complete sentence about that feeling. It might feel awkward the first couple of times you try. That is completely normal and expected for a new skill. But the more you practice, the better you get at it. Over time, you develop a richer emotional vocabulary inside. Research shows most people use only about 20 emotion words. Happy, sad, angry, anxious, and a handful of other basics. But human emotional experience is vastly more nuanced than that. There are feelings like resentment and wistfulness and hollowness. There are feelings like restlessness and inadequacy and longing. There are feelings like being overwhelmed or feeling invisible somehow. Finding the exact right word for your emotion is powerful work. It is like finally finding the right key for a stubborn lock. Everything clicks into place once the word fits the feeling. Make this a daily habit, even if it is just once a day. Check in with yourself and name what you are feeling precisely. You can write it in a journal or just say it silently. Both approaches work and both strengthen your emotional awareness. And over time, something fascinating starts to happen naturally. You begin to notice patterns in your emotional life clearly. You notice that certain situations trigger certain feelings reliably. Maybe you realize that feeling unappreciated makes you most anxious. Maybe you notice that disrupted plans make you especially irritable. Maybe you see that Sunday evenings always bring a wave of dread. These patterns become visible only when you name emotions regularly. And once you see the patterns, you can prepare for them better. You are no longer blindsided by your own emotional reactions. You start to anticipate them, and that makes them less frightening. What you can predict, you can manage much more effectively. Once you start naming your emotions, something else emerges naturally. You begin to see the thoughts that are connected to those feelings. Emotions and thoughts always travel together like close companions. When you feel anxious, there is usually a thought feeding that anxiety. When you feel sad, there is a thought reinforcing that sadness too. That connection brings us to the second method you need to know. The second method is recognizing your patterns of thinking. When your mind is in turmoil, specific thought patterns repeat endlessly. Psychology calls these patterns cognitive distortions, and they are common. A renowned psychiatrist named Dr. Alan Crawford systematically identified them. He found that people experiencing depression or anxiety share these patterns. They fall into the same mental traps over and over again. These traps feel completely real and convincing when you are in them. But they are distortions of reality, not accurate reflections of it. Let me describe some of the most common ones for you now. The first one is called catastrophizing, and it is very widespread. This is when one small mistake becomes a total disaster in your mind. You made a minor error in a report you submitted at work. A single typo or a small miscalculation on one page. And suddenly your mind tells you everything is completely ruined. You think your boss will see you as totally incompetent now. You think this one error defines your entire professional ability. One small event inflates into an enormous catastrophe in your head. The reality is that one mistake is just one mistake and nothing more. It does not define you or your capabilities in any meaningful way. But catastrophizing makes it feel like the entire world is collapsing. The second common distortion is called mind reading by psychologists. This is when you assume you know what others are thinking about you. Someone does not respond to your message for a few hours today, and immediately your brain says they must be upset with you. They must be angry or disappointed or avoiding you on purpose. But the truth is, you have absolutely no idea what they think. They might be busy or tired or simply not checking their phone. You have zero evidence for the conclusion your brain jumped to. Yet it feels absolutely certain and real inside your head right now. The third distortion is called emotional reasoning, and it is sneaky. This is when you treat your feelings as evidence of reality itself. You feel anxious, so you conclude that something must be truly wrong. You feel hopeless, so you decide that the situation is actually hopeless. You feel like a failure, so you believe you genuinely are one now. But feelings are not facts, no matter how real they seem to you. Anxiety does not mean danger is actually present around you right now. Hopelessness does not mean your situation is truly without any hope. Feelings reflect your internal state, not the external reality, accurately. Recognizing these thought patterns is incredibly powerful all by itself. The moment you notice you are in a cognitive distortion, something shifts. You gain a tiny bit of distance from the thought immediately. You go from being inside the thought to observing the thought instead. And that small shift makes an enormous difference in how you feel. Here is how you practice this skill in your everyday life now. When a strong thought grabs your attention and will not let go, ask yourself this one simple but powerful question right away. What actual evidence supports this thought I am having right now? This single question is the starting point of cognitive restructuring. You are not trying to suppress the thought or force it away. You are simply checking whether the thought is based on facts. You are examining it the way a good detective examines a clue. For example, your mind says, "I am terrible at my job," completely. Ask yourself, what actual evidence supports that specific thought today? Yes, there was a small error in the report that is factual. But there were also many parts of the report done very well. Your manager has given you positive feedback multiple times before. One mistake does not erase all of that accumulated evidence of competence. When you examine the evidence, the thought loses much of its grip. It does not disappear entirely, but it loosens its hold on you. You can breathe a little easier and think a little more clearly now. This will feel difficult at first, and that is perfectly normal, honestly. Stepping back from your own thoughts takes practice and patience. But every time you ask that evidence question, you get a little better. Over days and weeks, you start to notice the difference clearly. You start catching distortions faster before they spiral out of control. You begin to separate what you think from what is actually true. And that separation is one of the most freeing experiences possible. Here is something else that might help you feel less self-critical. Cognitive distortions are not a sign of weakness or mental deficiency. They are actually a product of how the human brain evolved over time. Your brain is designed to scan for threats and assume the worst case. That was useful when humans faced physical dangers every single day. A brain that assumed the worst kept you alive in dangerous environments. But in modern life, that same mechanism fires when there is no real danger. It treats a late text message like a predator lurking in the shadows. It treats a workplace mistake like a life-threatening emergency situation. So when you catch yourself catastrophizing or mind-reading or reasoning emotionally, do not beat yourself up about it or call yourself irrational or weak. Instead, just notice it with a gentle and matter-of-fact awareness. Say something like, "My brain is doing its overprotection thing again today." That simple acknowledgement is already a huge step toward mental clarity. It normalizes the experience and takes away its power to control you. Writing things down can amplify the benefits of this method significantly. Keep a simple log of strong thoughts that bother you during the day. Write down the situation and the thought and the emotion you felt. Then write down what evidence actually supports or contradicts that thought. After 2 or 3 weeks of doing this, patterns will emerge clearly. You will see which distortions you fall into most frequently and regularly. That self-knowledge becomes your shield against future emotional spirals. The third method is about calming your body before your mind. Your mind and your body are deeply connected to each other always. This connection is one of the most consistent findings in psychology research. When you feel anxious, your breathing becomes shallow and rapid automatically. Your muscles tighten up, especially in your shoulders, neck, and jaw area. Your heart rate increases and your palms might start to sweat noticeably. These are all physical manifestations of your emotional and mental state. And here is the fascinating part of this mind-body connection today. It works in both directions, not just from mind to body only. If you intentionally calm your body, your mind follows along with it. When your body relaxes, your brain receives signals that things are safe. Those safety signals help your brain shift out of its alarm mode. Your emotional state begins to settle down as your body calms itself. The fastest and most effective way to calm your body is breathing. Specifically, there is a technique called box breathing that works incredibly well. Here is exactly how you do box breathing step by step right now. Breathe in slowly through your nose for a count of 4 seconds. Hold that breath gently for another count of 4 full seconds. Then exhale slowly and steadily for a count of 4 more seconds. Hold again with your lungs empty for a final count of 4 seconds. That is one complete cycle of the box breathing technique described. This method is used by elite military units in the United States. They use it to manage extreme stress in high-pressure combat situations. If it works in those intense conditions, it can work for your daily stress. The reason box breathing works so well is rooted in your nervous system. Your body has two main operating modes that alternate throughout the day. One mode is for alertness, tension, and responding to perceived threats quickly. The other mode is for rest, recovery, digestion, and feeling safe and calm. When you are stressed or anxious, the alert mode takes over completely. And the problem is you cannot just think your way out of alert mode. Telling yourself to calm down rarely works because your body is still activated. Your muscles are still tense and your heart is still racing fast. But breathing is special and unique among all your bodily functions today. It is one of the very few automatic processes you can also control manually. By deliberately slowing your exhale, you activate your rest and recovery mode. You flip the switch from tension to relaxation through your breath alone. Your body starts to calm down and your brain follows right behind it. This is why breathing works when positive thinking alone often does not help. Your body needs to feel safe before your mind can actually believe it is. So try box breathing right now, even as you are reading this content. Breathe in for 4 counts and hold for 4 more counts gently. Exhale for 4 counts and hold empty for 4 final counts slowly. Do this 3 times in a row and notice what happens inside your body. You might feel your shoulders drop slightly from their tense position now. You might notice your jaw unclenching just a tiny bit from the exercise. You might feel a small wave of calm washing through your chest area. Even a subtle shift is meaningful and worth paying attention to carefully. If counting to 4 feels too long at first, that is totally fine. Start with 3 counts instead and work your way up to 4 gradually. The exact number matters less than the principle behind the technique itself. The key principle is making your exhale slow and intentional and deliberate. That slow exhale is what triggers the relaxation response in your body. Here is a practical tip for building this into your daily routine easily. You do not need to set aside special time for breathing practice at all. Use the small gaps that already exist throughout your typical day naturally. When you are waiting for an elevator, take 3 slow deep breaths then. When you are sitting at a red light, do 1 cycle of box breathing. Before a meeting starts, spend 60 seconds breathing slowly and deliberately. These tiny moments of practice add up to something significant over weeks. And when a genuinely stressful moment arrives, your body will know what to do. It will shift into the breathing pattern automatically without conscious effort. That is the power of consistent small practice sessions done regularly over time. There is another body-based technique that complements breathing very nicely too. It is called progressive muscle relaxation and it has been used in therapy for decades. The idea is simple and effective and you can do it anywhere you are. Pick a muscle group that feels tense right now in your body today. Your shoulders are a very common place to hold tension without realizing it. Deliberately tense those muscles even more than they already are right now. Raise your shoulders up toward your ears as high as they can possibly go. Hold that tension for about 5 seconds and really feel the tightness there. Then release all at once and let your shoulders drop completely and fully. Notice the contrast between the tension and the relaxation that follows it. That contrast teaches your body to recognize what true relaxation actually feels like. You can do this with your hands by making tight fists then releasing them. You can do this with your face by scrunching it up then letting it go. You can work through your entire body from your toes to the top of your head. This is especially helpful as a bedtime routine to release the tension of the day. Once your body is calm, you are ready for the 4th method to work best. A calm body creates the perfect conditions for a calmer mind to follow. When your muscles are relaxed and your breathing is slow and steady now. Your thoughts naturally begin to slow down from their frantic racing pace. And that is the ideal moment to bring your mind back to the present. The fourth method is anchoring yourself in the present moment right now. When your mind is turbulent, your thoughts usually race in two directions. They either race backward into the past replaying things that already happened, or they race forward into the future worrying about things that have not occurred. That meeting where you said the wrong thing replays over and over again. That upcoming deadline fills you with dread before it has even arrived yet. Your thoughts bounce between regret about yesterday and fear about tomorrow endlessly. Meanwhile, your body is sitting right here in this present moment today. Your mind is in the past or future, but your body is always right here. That disconnect between where your mind is and where your body actually is. That disconnect is a major source of emotional turbulence and mental distress. A psychologist named Dr. Richard Pemberton developed a practice called mindfulness. It has been studied extensively for several decades across many research institutions. The findings are remarkably consistent across hundreds of published scientific studies. Mindfulness reduces anxiety and stress and improves emotional regulation significantly. It helps people respond to difficult situations rather than just react impulsively. And you do not need to become a meditation expert to benefit from it today. There is a simple technique you can use right now called sensory grounding. It works by redirecting your attention from thoughts to physical sensations immediately. Here is how you do it step by step wherever you are right now today. Look around and identify 5 things you can see with your eyes currently. Maybe a window, a cup, a desk, a shadow on the wall, in your hand. Then identify 4 things you can hear in your environment right now. Maybe the hum of an air conditioner or cars passing outside your building. Maybe the sound of a keyboard clicking or your own breathing rhythm today. Then identify 3 things you can physically feel on your skin right now. The texture of the chair you are sitting in pressing against your back. The feeling of your feet touching the floor through your shoes or socks. The sensation of your clothing fabric resting gently against your skin today. Then find 2 things you can smell in your immediate surroundings right now. And finally, 1 thing you can taste, even if it is just the air. This 5-4-3-2-1 exercise is called sensory grounding specifically. It is used in trauma therapy and anxiety treatment by professionals worldwide. The reason it works is beautifully simple and grounded in neuroscience research. When you focus on your senses, your brain has to come back to now. Your senses can only perceive what is happening in this exact moment. You cannot see the past or hear the future with your physical senses. So when you deliberately engage your senses, you pull your brain back. You pull it out of the time-traveling thought spiral it was stuck inside. You bring it back to the only moment that actually exists, which is now. The first time you try this, you might wonder how it could possibly help. It seems too simple to make any real difference in your mental state. But try it once and pay close attention to what happens inside your mind. For about 30 seconds, your racing thoughts will pause or slow down noticeably. That brief pause might not sound like much, but it is actually transformative. It breaks the momentum of the thought spiral, even if just for a moment. And that break gives you a chance to reset and choose a different direction. Even if the thoughts come back, you now know that pause is possible for you. You know that your mind can be quiet even if only for half a minute. That knowledge becomes an anchor you can return to again and again daily. A common question people ask about mindfulness is about wandering thoughts specifically. They say, my mind keeps wandering, so I must be doing this wrong somehow. This is one of the biggest misconceptions about mindfulness practice today. Mindfulness is not about having a perfectly empty and silent mind at all. It is about noticing when your mind has wandered away from the present. The moment you realize your thoughts drifted, that is mindfulness happening. That moment of awareness is the entire point of the practice itself. You notice the drift and you gently bring your attention back to now. Then your mind wanders again and you notice again and come back again. That cycle of wandering and noticing and returning is the actual practice. It is like doing repetitions at a gym for your attention and awareness muscles. Every single time you notice and return, you get a little bit stronger inside. So do not judge yourself for having a busy mind during mindfulness practice. A busy mind that keeps getting noticed is a mind that is getting trained. The number of times your mind wanders is completely irrelevant to your progress. What matters is that you noticed it wandered and brought it back each time. Walking can also be a wonderful way to practice mindfulness every single day. When you walk somewhere, pay attention to the sensation of your feet on ground. Notice the feeling of air moving across your skin as you move forward. Listen to the sounds around you without trying to label or judge them. Leave your phone in your pocket and take your earbuds out for this walk. Even 5 minutes of mindful walking can shift the quality of your entire day. The walk from your home to the train station can become a mindfulness session. The walk to grab lunch from a nearby store can be your daily practice time. These small ordinary moments become extraordinary when you bring full attention to them. Now we arrive at the fifth and most important method of them all today. This is the one that most people are getting completely wrong right now. This is the one that could change your relationship with yourself permanently. The fifth method is treating yourself with genuine kindness and compassion. A psychologist named Dr. Elena Sandoval has spent years researching this concept. She calls it self-compassion, and her findings have changed modern psychology significantly. Here is why this matters so much for anyone struggling with a turbulent mind. When your mind is chaotic, your very first instinct is to attack yourself harshly. You say things to yourself that you would never say to another human being. Why am I so pathetic, and why can I not just handle this simple thing? What is wrong with me, and why am I always falling apart like this? Get it together and stop being so weak and dramatic about everything today. These words feel like they should motivate you to be stronger and tougher. They feel like the harsh push you need to snap out of your mental fog. But the research tells a completely different story about what actually works here. Self-criticism does not make you stronger or more resilient over time at all. It actually slows down your recovery from setbacks and difficult experiences significantly. It increases feelings of shame, helplessness, and avoidance in measurable ways consistently. Dr. Sandoval found that people with higher levels of self-compassion recover faster. They bounce back from failure and disappointment more quickly and more completely. They also show stronger motivation to try again after experiencing a setback today. They are not weaker or lazier because they are kind to themselves at all. They are actually more resilient and more willing to take on new challenges regularly. The people who beat themselves up the most are often the ones who stay stuck longest. Self-criticism creates a cycle of shame that paralyzes rather than motivates people forward. Kindness and understanding are what actually fuel genuine and lasting recovery from hardship. Self-compassion has 3 essential components that work together as a complete system. The first component is self-kindness instead of harsh self-judgment and criticism. When you are struggling, treat yourself the way you would treat a dear friend. Speak to yourself with warmth and understanding rather than contempt and cruelty inside. The second component is recognizing common humanity in your suffering and struggles. You are not the only person in the world who feels this way right now today. Millions of people across the globe are experiencing similar pain at this very moment. Knowing that suffering is a shared human experience reduces feelings of isolation dramatically. You are not uniquely broken or fundamentally flawed in some way that others are not. You are human in humans struggle, and that is a universal truth, not a personal defect. The third component is mindfulness, which we already discussed as the fourth method here. It means observing your emotions without judging them as good or bad or wrong today. You simply notice what you feel and acknowledge it without adding criticism on top of it. You say something like, "I notice I am feeling overwhelmed right now, and that is okay." You do not say, "I should not be feeling this way," or "something is wrong with me today." Here is the most practical way to apply self-compassion in your life right now. Think about what you are going through and how difficult it feels for you today. Now imagine that your closest and most trusted friend came to you with this exact situation. They sat down across from you and described feeling exactly what you are feeling now. What would you say to that friend in that moment of vulnerability and pain today? You would probably say something like, "That sounds really tough and I am sorry." You would say anyone would struggle with something like that, so do not be hard on yourself. You would say, "You are doing better than you think and I believe in you completely." You would speak with warmth and genuine care and understanding and patience for them. Now here is the crucial question that changes everything about self-compassion practice. Why do you not speak to yourself that same way when you are the one who is hurting? Most people are incredibly warm and supportive toward their friends who are struggling. But they become harsh, cold, and demanding critics when they themselves are the ones in pain. The gap between how you treat others and how you treat yourself is often enormous. Recognizing that gap is the very first step toward closing it once and for all now. And closing that gap is perhaps the most important emotional skill you can develop. Start by taking whatever kind words you would offer to a struggling friend today, and direct those exact same words toward yourself with the same sincerity and warmth. It will feel strange and uncomfortable at first, and that is completely expected here. You are not used to being gentle with yourself because you have practiced harshness for years. But awkwardness fades with repetition, and eventually kindness becomes your new default setting. One more important clarification about self-compassion needs to be made very clearly. Self-compassion is not the same thing as self-pity or making excuses for yourself. It is not about avoiding responsibility or pretending your mistakes do not matter at all. Self-compassion actually requires you to honestly acknowledge where you fell short today. But it separates the behavior from your identity as a whole and complete person now. A good coach does not scream at an athlete who missed a shot during the game. A good coach says, "I see what went wrong there and here is how we fix it next time." A good coach is honest about the mistake but supportive about the path forward always. Self-compassion means becoming that kind of coach for your own life and growth journey. You acknowledge the error and you learn from it and you move forward with dignity. But you do not turn one mistake into evidence that you are fundamentally worthless inside. That distinction between honest accountability and destructive self-attack is everything here today. Writing yourself a letter can be a surprisingly powerful self-compassion exercise too. Write about what you are going through right now in as much detail as you can manage. Describe the situation and your feelings and what is making everything so difficult today. Then underneath that description, write what a caring friend would say back to you. Write the words of comfort and encouragement and understanding that friend would offer. Read it back to yourself slowly and let those words actually sink into your heart deeply. You might be surprised by how much you needed to hear those exact words from someone. And sometimes the someone who needs to say them most is actually yourself right here. Let me paint a picture of how all 5 methods work together in real daily life. Imagine you are on your way home after a particularly difficult and draining day at work. Your idea was dismissed during a meeting without any real consideration or discussion. You also had a tense exchange with a colleague over something relatively minor and small. Your mind is buzzing with replaying conversations and worrying about tomorrow already now. Here is how you could use all 5 methods during your commute home tonight specifically. While sitting on the train, you close your eyes and check in with your emotions first. You form a sentence in your mind about what you are actually feeling right now today. You think, I feel resentful because my idea was dismissed without being heard at all. And I feel uneasy because the tension with my colleague is unresolved and lingering still. That is emotional naming, and it immediately begins to organize the chaos inside your head. Next, a thought pops up saying tomorrow is going to be so awkward with that colleague. You catch that thought and ask yourself what evidence actually supports this prediction now. The tension today was real, but it was minor and your colleague seemed fine afterward actually. There is no solid evidence that tomorrow will definitely be awkward between you two at all. That is cognitive restructuring, and the thought loses some of its power over you immediately. You step off the train and start walking toward your home through the evening air outside. You notice the sound of birds and the feeling of a breeze on your face and arms. You feel your feet hitting the pavement with each step you take toward your front door. You count 3 things you can feel and 4 things you can hear around you right now. That is sensory grounding, and your racing thoughts slow down for a welcome moment of peace. Before you walk inside your home, you pause and do 3 cycles of box breathing quietly. In for 4 and hold for 4 and out for 4 and hold for 4 3 times through. Your shoulders drop and your jaw unclenches and your body releases some of its accumulated tension. That is body calming, and it prepares you to actually rest when you get inside your home tonight. And finally, before you fall asleep, you say one kind thing to yourself about this day. You say, today was really hard, but I got through it, and that counts for something important. You say, I am doing my best with what I have, and that is enough for right now today. That is self-compassion, and it lets you close the day without carrying its full weight forward. This small routine takes maybe 15 minutes spread across your entire evening commute home. But it changes how you experience the transition from a hard day to a restful night completely. These 5 methods are all connected to each other in a meaningful and logical progression here. Naming your emotions makes it easier to spot your thought patterns more clearly afterward. Spotting your thought patterns reduces the physical tension your body holds onto unnecessarily. Reducing physical tension makes it much easier to anchor yourself in the present moment fully. Being present in the moment makes it natural to extend kindness toward yourself compassionately. Each method flows into the next one, creating a complete system for emotional well-being overall. Practice them individually at first until each one feels somewhat natural and familiar to you. Then start combining them and you will notice they begin to work as one unified flow. When that flow becomes part of your daily life, something remarkable happens over time gradually. Difficult moments still come because that is simply part of being a human being alive today. But you recover from those moments faster and with much less damage to your inner peace. You find your center more quickly than you used to in the past before this practice. You feel less shaken and less overwhelmed when life throws something unexpected your way suddenly. That is what building emotional resilience actually looks like in practical everyday terms for you. One final point that deserves emphasis before we close this conversation together right now. These methods are not only for crisis moments or your absolute worst and darkest days ahead. They are actually most effective when practiced during ordinary and relatively calm times too. Think of it like physical exercise and how it relates to your overall long-term health. You do not start exercising the day you get sick because by then it is already too late. You exercise regularly while you are healthy so your body is strong when illness arrives. Emotional skills work the exact same way for your mental and psychological health overall. Practice naming emotions on regular days when life is going reasonably smoothly for you. Practice checking your thoughts when the stakes are low and the pressure is minimal today. Practice breathing and grounding during peaceful moments, not just during stressful emergencies only. Build these habits now so they are available to you automatically when you truly need them most. And if these methods feel clumsy or ineffective when you first start trying them out today, please do not criticize yourself for struggling with something new and unfamiliar right now. Nobody masters a new skill on their very first attempt, and that includes emotional skills too. Learning to work with your emotions is like learning a new language from the very beginning. It takes repetition and patience and many imperfect attempts before it starts to feel natural. The fact that you have read this far already shows you are committed to your own growth. That commitment matters more than perfection ever could in this process of building resilience. You have already taken the first step simply by showing up and paying attention here today. Here is the truth that ties everything together into one clear and powerful message for you. Having a turbulent mind does not mean you are weak or broken or less than anyone else. And you do not have to figure out how to calm that turbulent mind entirely on your own. Use the tools shared here today as your starting point for building something lasting inside. Reach out to people you trust when you need support and connection and understanding from others. And if your struggles feel too heavy to carry alone, seek help from a trained professional. There is no shame in asking for help because it is actually one of the bravest things possible. You deserve to be cared for, and that includes being cared for by your own self every day. Mindfulness and self-compassion and emotional naming might sound like unfamiliar clinical terms right now. But everything these methods are really saying comes down to one beautifully simple core idea today. Be a little kinder to yourself and a little more attentive to this present moment you are in. That is the strongest foundation you can build for a calmer and more grounded inner life ahead. Right now, somewhere in the world, someone else is feeling exactly what you are feeling today. You are not alone in this experience, and you have never been alone in it at all, truly. And if you can do just one thing from everything you have read here, please do it today. Start small and start now, because that single small step is where real change always begins.